Hello, boys and girls. Alex here with Sweeney Sports. Welcome to 2025. This is the first week of January, and I'm going to give you a fishing report for Lake Berryessa and Napa River. Okay, I'm going to start with bank fishing. We're going to go bank and both, and I have some props here. I'm going to show you a couple things, and believe it or not, even though it's kind of cold outside and maybe a little bit raining, this week's been good. But the fishing is actually pretty hot right now. Lake Berryessa is doing really well for both trout and catfish as well. So if you're fishing from the bank, here's my advice. Here's what we're hearing from other anglers, our customers, out on Facebook groups, and my own fishing. I take all that information and I distill it down for you in things that you should know to be more successful in the water, okay? So first thing, fishing from the bank on Lake Berryessa, I'm choosing something steep, a cove, where I can throw off the bank and it's not flat, it's kind of a little bit of a steeper angle, so you know it's a little deeper. And I would put a large live minnow under bobber 5 to 6 feet down. You gotta have a bobber stopper, and you can cast it out and you can have that live bait swimming under your bobber. It's a lot of fun. You can catch a number of trout. I caught some really big ones last week doing the same process, so that's a good way to get fish from the bank. The other setup I would do is, again, I would use large minnows. They've been working really well. Put them on a sliding rig on the bottom with weight and have that fish with a 3-foot leader swimming around your weight with a sliding sinker setup. And again, it's a lot of fun, big bites happening. You can get catfish and trout this way. Another thing I would do, besides power bait also works right now. There's a lot of planted trout in Lake Berryessa. You can get them on power bait almost anywhere. Just soak it for a little bit of time, be patient, and once they're coming around, they'll get your best thing to do is sunrise, sunset times, but they actually bite in the middle of the day as well. But if you want to level it up from power bait, I would blow up a night crawler. Suspend it 4 feet from the bottom. Same thing I would do with power bait, 4 to 5 feet off the bottom. Have that fat, full of air night crawler lift up, swing up, swim up, or bobble up, and you'll get good bites. Again, trout and catfish and bass would go for these. As far as cats, I would do a free spool, some chicken liver. I marinate mine in garlic. You can do whatever you like, but you put a decent chunk. You use some magic thread to tie it onto the hook. You cast it out there and let it sink on its own. No weights, nothing. Just let it sink to the water column. The big cats will find it. You can do high-low setups, so 2 hooks, put a worm on one and put a piece of liver on the other. You get smaller catfish, but you bite smaller catfish, bass, smallmouth, big mouth bass. Well, big mouth not so much, smallmouth maybe, and then you'll get crappie and sunfish or bluegill, whatever's out there, biting that high-low rig. Though that's more for smaller fish. I haven't found a lot of big fish doing that. Another thing that big cats love this time of year is live bait, again suspended from the bottom with a sliding rig, same as you would for trout. You double your chances to get a big catfish or a big fat trout. So large minnows work. Come here at Sweeney Sports, pick him up. We'll pick him up anywhere they're sold. You'll be happy. Trolling, Lake Berryessa, okay, downriggers. We had a lot of luck lately trolling down 95 feet, so you got to look at where the bait bowl is and where all the action is on your fish finder. We find it down 95 feet around the dam area, or 65 to 85 feet where the island is on narrows. I look at that bait bowl, I put my bait, and when I say bait, what's been working really well is this T-bone spoons in orange Speedy Shiners, again in orange, anything orange worked for us, or these UV optimizer juniors with black or dark blue with fluorescent dots. That's been working great. Now the key is you gotta speed this up this time of year. It's cold, they're super active, the trout, and 2.7 miles to about 3.5, 3.2 miles an hour. That's kind of what the range is. I would test. I would not go any slower, you would not catch fish. There's tons of shad down there now, and if you catch fish, see what it's eating, and it's eating this little tiny shad. So your presentation has to be fast, has to be delicious looking. I smother it with either sturgeon frenzy or any kind of trout, sardine, or any kind of bait scent right on that spoon. My back sets are 80 to 100 feet. I recommend going that far away from the boat unless you're using the boards to spread your bait out. I would put it fairly back there and put it down riggers, get it down to 95 feet, catch fish. I use 8 to 10 pound mono test line, and again my lures of choice is Speedy Shiners and T-bone tackle and optimizers. I have variety of colors. I have the greens, I have the blues, I have the blacks, I have the whites, I have the pearls, I have the oranges, I have the yellows, I have the pinks. I have them all. You don't know what are they gonna key on that particular day. If you're not representing the right color, you will struggle. So the first part in the morning is always testing through the colors, going through the colors. Once you get that bite, change or alter that color similar, and you usually get, and Fire Tiger works really well. You usually get bit pretty good. Lead core line, so this is something that we started fishing maybe a year ago. It's been very successful. The idea is there's a lead inside of this line, right? And it sinks. So the rate it sinks for each color, there's multiple colors here. For each color, you might fit 4, 5, 6 colors on your reel, depending on the reel you got. Each color sinks 5 feet, going 2 miles an hour, 2.2 miles an hour. So if you have 4 colors out, technically you're about 20 feet down. That's kind of how it works. You tie a 25 to 40 foot leader. Recommend 10 pound braid. 10 pound mono as a leader. You can come here to Sweeney Sports. We can set it up. You don't really need downriggers. A lot of them right now are in the top 20 feet. So if you fish in lead core lines, I would let 2.5 colors out. Put a little one of these jointed Rapalas on, and depending on what color you want, again you got to test different things, or again the same spread as you would for your downrigger lines. Speedy Shiners, T-bone tackle, those kinds of things. Find them all here at Sweeney Sports. 2.7, 3.1 miles an hour. Have your 2 downriggers, have the 2 lead cores. Downriggers down, lead cores fishing top 20, 15 feet. Man, you catch fish. Berryessa is doing really good right now for that. All right, shifting gears to Napa River. And by the way, if you have any questions, always put them down in the comments. We can help you out. For bait fishing for Napa River, I've done an article on my adventure site, catchhappy.co, on where to fish in Napa River. We've profiled 5 or 6, I can't remember, different locations around the river, and people constantly come into the shop and say, where's the best place to fish in Napa River? Where's the best place to fish in Napa River? Well, I can tell you with certainty, any place is the best place to fish on a Napa River, depending on where they are, the stripers are at this time. Right now, they're all over the system. They're actually spawning. They're in the system because they have to be. There's a lot of big fish there playing around, doing their thing, spawning, okay? So because of how tidal the system is, and the river is actually breathing in, breathing out. The water's coming in for 4 or 5 hours, the water's coming out 4 or 5 hours. There's a slack in between. If you're fishing from the bank, both incoming and outgoing tides are good. Sit on one spot, put that bait out there. So if you throw in lures, you gotta walk, you gotta find them, okay? But if you bait fishing, which is something very, very effective right now, if you doing live bait like ghost shrimp, which we do carry a lot of times, and or anchovies always work. Cut bait, you cut it up, you slice it up, you tie it to a hook, you throw it out there, you sit around, you have fun. Time on the water is key, okay? It's not where, it's how much time you have. You have 2 hours after work, go fish. You have 2 hours before work, go fish. You will catch good big fish, okay? If you spend enough time on the water. That's really it is the key right now. They're all throughout the system, but they're constantly on the move. You might get super action for 20 minutes, 15 minutes, they're gone. They're gonna be gone for half an hour to, 2 hours, or maybe they'll be gone for 3 days. Just don't know. But you gotta be there. You gotta be soaking your bait and getting the best chance at catching fish. So for both fishing in Napa River, the usual tricks work really well. You troll these deep divers with some scent on them behind the boat about 100 to 150 feet. That's where I like. Okay, you let them bump the bottom. It dives about 14 feet, the 12 to 14 feet. The most effective depth for this bait, these wild things, is about 8 to 9 feet. Okay, because they bump the bottom, they release all the silt. The big stripers are key on that, and then you go after it. Rattle trap is your next favorite thing to troll. We have tons of variety colors. Again, you should have a lot of colors. The fish will key in on certain color and won't touch anything else. But once you figure that out, you can have 10, 20 fish days, no problem, trolling, okay? And trolling gets you usually bigger fish, okay? I would slow things down right now. It's, I usually talk about 4.5 miles an hour, some even up to 5.5 miles an hour. Right now, 3 to 3.5 is where I would be doing. Water is a little colder, so they're not as aggressive or as fast, or want to be as fast and expend all that energy. So give it to them at the speed they like, 3 miles an hour or so, 3.5 maybe. So during incoming tides, focus on the main channel and the mouths of the sloughs. That's where all the action is going to be. They're going to be sitting there waiting for that fresh food coming from the ocean. On the outgoing tides, you got to patrol through all of the actual sloughs themselves and by the cuts into the pools in those sloughs. Just be patient. Troll. You can troll for 2 hours, get nothing. Keep changing things. Every 30 minutes, keep changing your presentations, different colors, different back sets, different speeds. You will get on them. Once you get on them, you're gonna get big fish, a lot of fish. You're gonna have a great time. Okay. Usually, I like my out of 100 trips plus I made, maybe 70% were best fish caught against the tide. So keep that in mind when you're against the tide's going about a mile and a half an hour. You want to get to 3, so you got to be about 4.5. Okay, that's kind of how it works. You got to subtract the speed of the tide with your speed and have the right water speed. So or ground speed. So just keep that in mind. With tide, you got to go a little faster. Against the tide, you got to go a little slower to get your presentation just right. Another thing you can do, you can drift minnows, cannonball weights, 2 to 4 ounce cannonball weights, and just drift minnows right out of those sloughs or into the sloughs depending on the tide. I would go from slough out to the main, from main back into the slough on the incoming. Those tactics are pretty effective. A lot of people catching a lot of striper right now on the banks with cut bait and ghost shrimp and things like that. Sturgeon is also doing really well. Something like a lot of patience, but if you got roe or you got ghost shrimp, usually you do pretty well. Grass shrimp, you'll do pretty well with sturgeon this time of year. Okay. Thank you very much for watching. Let us know if you have any questions. We'll catch you in the next report.